Level up your sim racing experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.
Alright, race fans, welcome to round 7 of the MotorMotion GT3 Championship, brought to you by Player1 Sim Gear. We were at Watkins Glen in New York. We have now jumped on the road, put all the cars into transporters, and we've headed over to Daytona International Speedway. Located in Daytona Beach in Florida in the United States, a fantastic super speedway is 2.5 miles or 4.02 k's. The road course, which opened a couple of years after that, is 3.56 miles or 5.729 k's. The super speedway opened up in 1959 and has been home of the NASCAR 500 since their construction, and since 1962 the Rolex Daytona 24 has been housed to that event, and that brings in plenty of spectators from around the globe to this amazing, fantastic circuit. And as always, MotorMotion GT3 Championship is sponsored by Player1 Sim Gear. It's created by sim enthusiasts for sim enthusiasts. They're Melbourne based and 100% Australian owned and operated. When they launched Player1, they set out to create an online destination for racers and flight simmers, not to mention sim farmers, sim space pilots, sim truckers, and all other kinds of sim fans, to shop for all of the best hardware brands at the best prices. They hope you like the site. As always, please do not hesitate to provide any feedback and let them know if there's any gear that you want that they don't currently stock. They'll do their best to go and find it. Player One. They're passionate about giving back and supporting the local flight and racing communities that make this hobby so rewarding for us all. They've happily chipped in to help provide us for a prize for each division driver champion of a voucher to the value of a set of racing gloves at the end of the season. For all your sim racing needs, visit p1simgear.com.au, proud sponsors of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship. And as we have it here, ladies and gentlemen, we are at round 7 of the MotorMotion E-Series GT3 Championship Group A from Daytona International Speedway. Previous round at Watkins Glen, round 6 in Group A. The sprint race we had Foster taking out the win in Elite, and Hutton coming in second for Scarborough Motorsport, and Scott rounding out the podium there in third place for Gridline Racing. In Pro Class we had Mead from Diffusion Race Engineering taking out that class win, and Taylor from Gridline Racing taking out second place. Barlow down in third for Black Rose Racing, taking out that rounding out of that podium there. Unfortunately, we had a DNF from Taylor from WTC-Racing. Over in Group B, for the sprint race, we had Bruin from Gridline Racing taking out that win. Samson in Diffusion Race Engineering coming through in second place. Third place was, obviously, we are not discriminative here. We do have females in the series. We had Camilleri in fourth place, just behind Joinson, and then Robinson taking out class honours from Diffusion Race Engineering in fifth place on the track, but first in class. Scarborough for Scarborough Motorsport taking out second place, and Britnell rounding out the podium for that one. Unfortunately, we didn't have a DNS for Parker, who is a privateer, which obviously, as always, is very unfortunate when to see drivers there. For the feature race, we had Scott from Gridline Racing taking out that win. Hutton from Scarborough Motorsport taking out second place, and Morgan Davey, the privateer, he's been showing off pretty well lately in a lot of the races, and showing off well really around in the sim community there in a lot of other leagues as well. So taking out that podium there, and we had Taylor from Gridline Racing taking out class honours there, 6 outright. Followed by Mead for Diffusion Race Engineering. Barlow for Black Rose Racing taking out that podium for the feature race. No DNFs, no DNSs, which is good for that one. So that's very well there. We head over to Group B. We had Samson coming through in first place for Diffusion Race Engineering, and Bruin coming through in second for Gridline Racing. Rushton surprised everyone quite a lot, coming through third outright, but also taking out class honours in that one for Gridline Racing. Then we had Van der Zandt coming through in fourth for WTC. Scarborough second in class for Scarborough Motorsport, and Britnell in third. We go over to the entry list here. We had Von Juve for WTC-Racing, and Taylor as well, both in the Jaguars. Then we have Gridline Racing. We have Scott and Taylor in those fantastic BMW M6s. Also in M6s, we had Foster and Mead for Diffusion Race Engineering. We head over to the first of the Mercedes. We've got Piers in Strike Race Tech, and also Adard as well. Heading over to the second lot of Mercedes, we have James Lee for Black Rose Racing, and Scotty Barlow for Black Rose also. For the first and only set of Porsches, we have Hutton for Scarborough Motorsport, and Patton as well for Scarborough, which unfortunately we won't be seeing tonight because it was a late withdrawal. But positives up with that one. We do have Tony Griffin filling in for... we have DP Mario. My apologies there, filling in for him tonight. Over for NED Racing, we have Atkinson in the 151, and then we have Ison as well. Just like Patton, we do have Ison unfortunately not attending the round. We do have Tony Griffin subbing in for him. The one and only privateer here, we have Davies in that Merc, and we'll definitely be pretty keen to see what he can pull out ahead of this round 7 entry here. I do realise there is Jay Austin at the bottom of that. I do apologise. I did not update that before we went live, but that's all good. We go through the team standings here. We've got Scarborough Motorsport on 346 points. Diffusion Race Engineering 312.5. Not too far behind, but still not that far out of reach to try and take that championship. Battle for second with Gridline Racing on 310. Shortly followed by Black Rose Racing. NED Racing in 5th place on 239 points. And WTC Racing on 208. Strike Race Tech looks a little bit there. Short on some points, but never mind. They're still in it for the championship and some cars on the grid, so hats off to them. We'll move to the driver standings with Platinum and Gold here. We've got Davey leading the championship at the moment on 89 points for the privateer, and then we've got Foster in second on 74, actually tied with Scott as well for second, both on 74 points. We head over to the Gold Championship. We have Barlow for Black Rose Racing on 117 points. And then we've got Mead in second for 83 for Diffusion Race Engineering. And then we have Scott Taylor for Gridline Racing on 67 points there, rounding out that top 3. Over in the Silver and Bronze Championships, we have Van der Zandt in first, Joynson in second for Scarborough Motorsport, and Brune in third. Very closely followed there by second and third. In the Bronze Championship, we have Rushton for Gridline Racing in first on 100 points, and Scarborough for Scarborough Motorsport in 97 points. Not too far behind. Anything can happen. And then we have Britnell in third for Black Rose Racing, shortly followed by Robinson. Over in Daytona, it's going to be sunny skies here, 28 degrees, no chance of rain. They have a mandatory tyre of softs. There is no must have one mandatory pit stop with soft tyres, and we'll just wait and see on what some strategies come out to play. But northeast, 17 k's of wind, humidity 62%, so the track might grip up and it might change over the course of the race. 20% chance of rain from now until the end of the race, so we'll wait and see if we'll see any rain there. Obviously, it's a 60-minute race. The mandatory tyre is softs here from Daytona International Speedway. As always, MotorMotion sponsored by Player1 Sim Gear for the GT3 Championship. The entries for the Platinum Championship, we have Halton in Captain Muffin for Black Rose Racing. I do believe he pulled out of that one. Hosking, Von Juve, Pears, Scott, Foster, Atkinson, and Davey. Gold Championship, we have Barlow, Kesby, Taylor, Attard, another Taylor, Mead, and Ison. The race format will be 20-minute qualifying. That'll kick off at 8:15, and then the race will be shortly after that for a 60-minute race. Catch all the action on our YouTube channel, and don't be afraid to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe the chat and channel on YouTube and Twitch, and we also do have Group B happening as well. So broadcast for myself will be joined by Nick Pautasso, as always, and we'll wait and see what this next hour has to bring. But as always, welcome to my friend in Nick Pautasso. It's been my first stream over on MotorMotion. How's it going?
Good evening, Roy. Yes, it is your first stream here at MotorMotion E-Series. Welcome along, my friend. And I will say that was an absolutely fantastic job that you've done tonight with the introductions and filling in the hot seat for Joel Austin, who is unable to join us for the rest of the season. He's going to be not joining us because he's going to be getting himself ready for the birth of his new child. So we congratulate Joel and his partner for the birth of their child. They'll be coming through very shortly. It's not long until they welcome their first child into that family. So big congratulations to Joel. Hopefully it all goes to him. But yes, fantastic to have you on board, Ryan. And I've been very excited to bring you in to MotorMotion's E-Series, as I've been talking about off air. It's been very exciting to get you on board, and I'll say you've done a fantastic job. So hats off to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. As always, you know, we teamed together for the Track Stars Racing Series. With obviously Joel having his little bub on the way, we do congratulate him on that, and we'll obviously be waiting on that happening. But yeah, the spot opened up, and they've obviously liked my previous streams, and we'll see how we go for this one. We've got another hour or so ahead of us. It's going to be quite a pretty long night, so I think we're going to wait and see. But as always, anyone in chat, if the game volume or any volumes need to be adjusted, please don't hesitate to let me know. I am going in blind with this one, so my levels are a little bit out. So.
Absolutely, and yeah, anytime you want to be following my fellow co-commentator in Ryan Palmer, also known as Disappointed, head over to his Twitch channel in Disappointed, where he streams all of his Racing League series, where he's last competed out in an NED Racing Championship for 12 hours. Beforehand, it was 24 hours at Nürburgring, which from what I remember, you did fantastic. So you got from, I think, from the almost rear of the field all the way up to fourth place with some of your good mates. So hats off to you, my friend. So anytime you want to check out his Twitch stream, as well as keeping us entertained in the chat, just let us know, and follow me on Twitch and Disappointed and DJSX Pointed. You will find out on his Twitch stream. But yes, we're going into round 7 here, DJ, here at the beautiful Daytona road course, formerly where we see the oval layout being used by the NASCARs, but here this is the layout that we always use for the IMSA 24-hour, old Daytona 24-hour, where we see all the prototypes and GT3 and GT4 cars running around the track. So obviously it is your first time here at MotorMotion Series, so I will give you a bit of a rundown. As we did mention earlier in the broadcast, the privateer driver in Morgan Davey has been shining the light away here and shocking the world in the GT3 Championship, just pulling out victories and pulling out solid performances, and he's just been on a roll. And I think you and I, we both know Davey very well, that, you know, a good driver like him with a good caliber driver, I'm surprised no one's actually ever picked him to join a team.
Yeah, well, obviously we've got a lot of history in a lot of our series that we've raced in previously, but yeah, he's a very fast driver, and it's just kind of clearly shown here. But I think I've raced alongside him with NED Racing, and yeah, I'm actually not surprised that he's up the top, but I'm actually kind of a little bit surprised that no one else has given a bit of a run for his money. But here at the moment, it looks like the Porsche from DP Mario and NIF are definitely kind of maybe on the pace. Maybe Daytona may or may not suit the Porsches a little bit better, but obviously we'll wait and see on what the BMWs, the Aston and the Jag have to come through, obviously the Mercs as well. But yeah, as you said, we had a 24-hour here on iRacing as well as at Nürburgring, but yeah, we did end up last place on the first lap due to me getting spun. And yeah, after the 24 hours we did pass 7th, 6th and 5th and 4th as well in probably the last 3 or so hours to take 4th outright. So that was our first Nürburgring, and that was fun. Daytona 24-hour also, we had some pretty good luck for the first couple of hours, but yeah, this track is definitely phenomenal and probably one of my favourites around in the racing scene.
Absolutely, and it's always a great track to be finally included into the Gran Turismo 7 platform. We missed it so much in GT Sport, but it's great to have it here live with us on the Gran Turismo console game. And yeah, you know, like you said, the Porsche's looking very strong with DP Mario so far leading the way in practice. He's doing a great job filling in the voids of Kane Patton in car 23, and then we also have Nathan Hutton, who in F427 is doing, or 47 rather, he's doing a fantastic job getting the Scarborough Motorsports up at the front there. They're sponsored by JV Hi-Fi and Nulol, and so these guys are doing a really great job keeping those Porsches 1 and 2. And obviously, in a way, Ryan, you definitely know that one of the drivers I was actually driving for Scarborough Motorsports is one of our good friends in Xavier Hosking, who unfortunately has retired, withdrawn his entry in the MotorMotion E-Series Player1 GT3 Championship, and he was doing a fantastic job. But Dylan Scarborough, the team boss, has recruited some great drivers in both Patton and Hutton, but now he's got himself a really good driver in DP Mario filling the void for Patton's case, and he'll be wanting to excel in the Gold Championship.
Yeah, definitely. We obviously know Xavier Hosking really well, and he obviously had the introduction of his daughter in the last 2 years, I believe. So he did take a bit of a step back from racing for a while. But yeah, I'm not surprised as well that he's up the front. So yeah, at the moment it looks like Scarborough Motorsport signed some pretty decent drivers here. Obviously DP Mario as well. He's subbing in tonight. So you know, I'm definitely interested to see on a couple of his other drivers here on what they can do. Is Rolls can hardly. Sorry about the apologies. I'm still getting used to everyone's names, but he's gone for a little bit of an escapade in the grass there.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll be able to fill you in with the names there. That's Robert Foster and Rolls can hardly. He's been doing himself a really good job there. He actually had a very fantastic battle, and I believe it was round 5. At round 4 at the Spanish Grand Prix in Catalunya, he almost beat the Scarborough Motorsport Porsche, but with only 1 lap to go, he lost the lead to Xavier. But the problem was, the thing was, it was actually the most remarkable strategy that he made. He made a one-stop strategy work, and on the last lap, his front right tire absolutely died on him, and he had no grip whatsoever. So he was really struggling in the last 3 laps, and then the Porsche in Xavier Hosking just came through out of nowhere and just made a very big lunge into turn 1 and took the victory away from Robert Foster. But it was a great race, that one. And yeah, Robert Foster does a really good job in both Player1 GT3 Championship and the track race at TCR Cup. This track is very dependent on its tire wear as well, Ryan, especially with the right-hand side of the car, very low, especially through the bankings. And when you go through to the Le Mans bus stop, it's very important to get that braking point right, because one little small mistake, you either go sent onto the grass or you actually get yourself a half-second penalty. So the loaded side of the car does get a little bit sketchy sometimes going into the Le Mans bus stop, but it's one side of the car that the drivers need to be aware of.
Yeah, certainly. Even on the infield, you know, a lot of the turns are right and left, but mainly right. So yeah, the banking can cause kind of a lot of havoc here, and obviously drivers with soft tires too. You know, if it was me, I would kind of prefer being on a soft tire. I would give more or less a medium or hard to go, just to give me that extra little bit of play. But no harm done. We always love soft tires because that's when we get probably the best racing. When you can get the maximum amount of speed out of the cars. Obviously these fantastic looking GT3 cars. I absolutely love seeing GT3 cars on circuit, especially the range that we have going around at the moment.
Yeah, well, if we cut back to James Lee's car, and it's kind of sitting in P3 in the practice lobby, they've actually changed their color scheme for this round. They've actually gone away from the black Mercedes into a bit of a white retro vibe that they've got going on. So Black Rose Racing going for a very distinct American style, you know, Mercedes looking AMG with the red, white and blue stripes, which obviously represents the US of A. But coming through, you know, he's done a great job. He's actually replaced, he actually substituted and then turned to a full-time drive to Aiden Halton, also known as Captain Muffin 88. So he's actually filling in the void is James Lee. That's why we see him so far down the championship, because he's scoring for himself rather than topping up Halton's tally in points. So he's there just to try and get the team through. So they're a little bit further behind Black Rose Racing, who were at one point leading the championship, I believe it was a couple of rounds ago, before obviously with the loss of losing Halton in that car, and then with James Lee coming through at Laguna Seca for his debut. They just struggled a little bit just to get the car working around that track, and even last time out at Watkins Glen, they weren't really having a good time. So the Mercedes-Benz is really struggling since this last update in Gran Turismo 7, 1.34 update, and as well with Strike Tech, as we see ahead of him as well in Nick Pierce, Piersy23. Strike Race Tech, as you saw in the broadcast and as you were going through the team's championship, how far back they are in the championship. And Strike Race Tech came into the season with high hopes, and the pre-season testing was immaculate from them. They had such a great job getting those cars up towards the front of the field in pre-season testing, but as soon as it comes to the main season, it just under-delivered for them. So usually when that's the case, Ryan, when you know that you could say to yourself that you're one of the favourites to come into a championship, and then you all of a sudden you just fall off the pack, what do you think could be the reason in that case?
It could be kind of a lot of factors, really. Driver capability, might not feel comfortable. The other thing is obviously substitute drivers and stuff like that, not scoring points. Track condition, car condition, whether or not the car likes the track. There's a whole bunch of different things, but hats off to them. Obviously, being so far down in the standings and still giving it a red hot crack. Most amount of respect to that, and obviously. Yourself, myself, we both raced against James Lee and Nick Pearce too, so I do know kind of what capability the drivers have. So yeah, I'm definitely really looking forward to on what this will have in store for us. But gee, wow, that's a very bright green Aston Martin there from Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely. The NED Racing whiskey team. Aston Martin V12 bench has always put on some great liveries, some very like bright and vibrant liveries, as you see with Tony Griffin in third place, and then his teammate Lewis Atkinson, who's hitting up in paint. See, Lewis is gone for a great look on his car, but then we look down into the bronze, silver and bronze. Monaco Camilleri is running a purple or pink livery, AMG. V12 Vantage, and then we have Karma Foster is running a purple livery. So some very bright colours, and it's in a good way. It's very good to identify drivers like that, because when you see drivers with the same colour scheme, and obviously they are in uniform, it's always very hard to pick who is driving what car. You just have to look really closely at either the race number, or you have to look usually like back into the rear windscreen just to find out who the driver is.
Yeah, it's always, I always really like the same kind of team color, team scheme, but then obviously different colors. Your previous history as well, when you race, your two cars are the same scheme but two different colors. So it's really good because it kind of shows the difference in drivers and stuff like that. So, and yeah, as you said, like a spotter's guide for some for drivers like that. But yeah, they definitely stand out on track. And I did see Monica's car on a preview scrolling through the Facebook page, and I don't know, man, I really like the green and pink. So something about the really bright standout colours definitely does something for me on the track. Although me personally, I'm not a fan of green on race cars, but as you know, I am part of a team that has green race cars, so it's kind of a bit of a 50-50 going on there.
Exactly. I'm sure if you had words with your actual team boss, you would rather change the colours. But yes, but NED Whiskey sponsored by NED Whiskey and Penrite, has some Joel Austin, who is the team owner of NED Racing. He's actually got some really good close connections with the Melbourne-based Penrite Racing in the supercars. So he's got some good contacts there, and he just has some good support, and they've just come on board for the online world. And it's great to see a team like Joel bring in the names like NED Racing and Penrite, as we usually see them in the supercars. But we have both NED drivers in both Griffin and Lewis coming through into the Le Mans bus stop for their first hot lap here. So Lewis is doing himself a really good job in this championship as well. Not as high up as we usually see him. He's currently sitting in fourth place at the moment on 68 points, so he's not too far behind Scott, and he's a little bit further back in the championship. But I usually know Lewis is running, that he's always hanging about, but getting a nice good slipstream from Griffin is going to definitely help him coming onto this last banking here onto the start finish line. Let's see what his lap time brings up the first lap. He does go P1, but only by a tenth and a half, so it's early days. He did say 20 minutes. We're only got about 16 minutes to go until this session ends, but so far Lewis Atkinson on top, with Davey in second, for Dubey in third place for WTC Racing. And this is a car, Ryan, that Joel and I have been very skeptical of, with the WTC boys switching from the BMWs from the pilot season to the Jaguar. Early season progress they've done really well, just like Strike Race Tech. They've been up there in the pre-season testing and the qualifiers and the sprint races that they did. The Jaguars and Strike Tech were always up in front, and then all of a sudden when it comes to the season, the car just kind of lets them down. And unfortunately for both Von Duvi and Aussie Taylor, unfortunately they are really struggling to get the grips with his car.
Yeah, I know from previously, I don't know if it maybe is sort of kind of a power issue when it's under the BOP, because obviously you know yourself with the different manufacturers of cars, you know, turbo, naturally aspirated, a lot of the cars have a different balance of performance as well as weight too. So you know, you got the chonky boy of the M6 who's got a turbo, but then you've got obviously the Jag as well, but it's naturally aspirated V8. So you know, maybe that might be a thing there, but maybe the aero, you know, I'm not overly sure. But me personally, I kind of wouldn't have gone the Jag, but you know, I'm highly respectful for anyone who can pull out something in a car that's kind of abnormal as such. You know, just like the Jag. You know, we don't see much of the Jag, but having it on track, it definitely looks really good. But yeah, drivers coming through. Setting a couple of first laps as we see him kind of shuffling around. We'll give him probably another lap or two, and then we'll roll through the standings. But yeah, I do have, as I said, a lot of respect for these guys at WTC Racing. You know, we've seen them around for a long time, and yeah, they're in some pretty good-looking Jaguars, I must say.
Absolutely. Rebranded themselves from WTC to WTCC to WTCR, or WTC Racing, I'll rather say. So they've rebranded, they've shuffled themselves, they've reorganised themselves as a proper team to be reckoned with, a force to be reckoned with, as we had Slapper's mate, also known as Wade Von Duvi, winning the Pro Class Championship last time in the Pilot Series in the BMW N6, and that's why he is currently sitting 7th overall. I believe that's going to be 6th in class with Von Duvi in car 117. But as we go through to the top of the field, we do see Hutton in the Porsche 911 doing a really good job so far, as with the Juiced Motorsports entry, obviously with Scarborough Motorsport sponsored by JB Hi-Fi and Nulon, but also creating a partnership with the Juiced energy drink branding and getting that team up the pecking order, as the Juiced, I believe, came from Black Friday, and also known as Matthew Johnson, who is contesting pretty highly in the Silver Championship. So he brought Juiced along to Scarborough Motorsport, and they're doing themselves a really good job, and they've had some really talented drivers, as you said, with Hosking and as well with Kes Audio. They both unfortunately had to retire from the season, but they've definitely got some great substitutes. And we see Hudson really going for it. He's really took the Le Mans chicane very fast there, and he's got himself a little bit of a toe. Let's see if we can go on board with this. Let's see what kind of slipstream he can get. So he's tucked in behind Foster, and this is going to be really good for him. This is going to gain at least a couple of tenths as he comes towards the start-finish line. This will improve his lap massively. And wow, look at that. So 2 tenths extra, or maybe even 3 tenths extra, and that'll be Hudson very content with a 1 minute 44.6. And he's done a really good job to get himself up there, with James Lee in their Black Rose Racing sitting in 2nd place, and then Morgan Davey, the privateer, sponsored by Deeds Brewery, in 3rd place. Robert Foster for Diffusion Race Engineering, currently sitting in P4, and H.C. Lewis in Lewis Atkinson sitting in 5th place. 6th place also goes to Scott Barlow in position 6, who is actually on pole position for Gold Championship. So currently sitting well for the pro driver in 6th place. And we see some, and usually you and I, we usually see some familiar names down there in P7 and P8. And even in position 9 with both Von Duvi, Scott and Taylor right down the order in these early stages.
Yeah, that time there from the Scarborough Motorsport Porsche, that was exceptionally. It was nearly 9 tenths faster than his previous lap. So yeah, that slipstream and how we ran through that through the bus stop there, he essentially kind of went full send. So I think maybe he might just burn a bit more fuel and chuck a new set of softs on coming towards the end. Probably give another 5 or so minutes, and then it was probably see come into the pits and chuck some new tyres on that 911 Porsche. I'll jump down here because I can see that Ando is in a slip here of of Scott, so this may kind of help him out a little bit to try and push him up the order. But yeah, it's not kind of really where we'd usually see Ando down the order there, but looks like he's pushing Scott along as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's pushing his teammate and Taylor. So both Gridline Racing boys, sponsored by Valvoline and Bosch, doing himself a good job. Ando's actually improved on his lap time, but not by much. So I actually wondered there. So he was actually sitting right behind the slipstream of Scott Taylor, but unfortunately, I think usually when you do bump draft somebody, Ryan, that you actually lose time bump drafts, and you think you might be gaining time by pulling away from others. But when it comes to qualifying, it's not really necessary. So I don't know what the strategy is there for Scott.
We've had some previous bump drafting in the past with our Daytona 500, but you, me, and Dan Wood did the bump draft, and we put essentially a lap on the field in say 15 laps. But doing the bump draft in qualifying, probably not what I would have wanted. But if not, I would be predicting maybe Scott will be using trying to push Taylor along to get him further up the field to try and pass Barlow. So I think maybe that might be something that Scott's trying to do, but yeah, that's definitely maybe not what you really want to do. But I'm just surprised at how many cars there are in such a short part of the track in qualifying.
Yeah, everyone's very close to each other. You've probably definitely got a lot of teammates working with each other, so probably Andrew Scott's helping Scott Taylor move up the grid, so he's currently sitting P2 in class in that Gold Championship. But another name that we're seeing down the order is Nick Pearce and Shane Addard from Strike Racetech, and this is what I've been talking about, DJ. The two teammates in Strike Racetech, they're really struggling this season, as they were one of the brand new teams introduced to getting their level 1 RCA, their racing car license for MotorMotion E-Series. So it's their debut season, and unfortunately for them, it's all gone the wrong way. They, like I said, they had a very strong pre-season, but when it comes to race day, when it comes to racing champion, scoring points in championship, it hasn't really worked for them, with Addard in 13th, Nick Pearce in 12th. So we'll wait and see. Maybe they might be able to improve themselves in the latter stages of this qualifying sessions. We're about almost 8 minutes to go. As we look down the order, we have Glenn Mead in Big Bruce the Shark, sitting in 14th place. He had a very strong result last time out at Daytona. He actually got himself a win in the sprint race, and then a second place in that feature race. So he's done a fantastic job getting himself up the order, and that's the highest we've actually seen Mead in this championships, in this gold class championship. So he's done a fantastic job getting himself up the order, and I know Brucey very well. He's a very strong driver. He's a Kiwi version of Barry White, and he's a fantastic man to talk to, and he's easygoing and he loves his racing no matter what. So very surprised to see him down there, but we will see that. Hopefully, we'll see that Diffusion Race Engineering BMW a little bit further up, just where Rolls-Can Hartley and Robert Foster is currently sitting P2 in class.
Yeah, and he is sitting, from what I can see, second in the championship too. So maybe all the way down here, 14th on track, he'd be last in class, if I do remember correctly, because he is behind Attard
second
there.
Last in class,
yeah,
behind
second.
Griffin is current.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so actually, yes, that's correct, because he's filling in for Larson. So it's always hard for me when I have drivers filling in on where they're sitting in the standings and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, second last in class, probably not where he kind of wants, but maybe if he can see something there. But from what I saw before, I thought Hutton would have been pretty happy with that lap, considering he's nearly 7.5 tenths faster than Foster. So and then obviously you got DP Mario here as well in the other Porsche. So it's definitely a Porsche fest, but seeing the BMWs for not the BMW, so the Mercedes down so far down the pack, I'm kind of curious on whether or not the drivers maybe got to terms with them yet or not. But the other thing I'm looking at here is there is 0.005 between DP Mario and James Lee. So that's definitely very close there. As you see, James Lee chucking some fuel in the car, put a new set of boots on. So he's going to go out for a final run. Just over 5.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session here at Daytona International Road Course. So yeah, it's kind of curious to see if we can see some of these other drivers down the bottom here in the Mercs and BMWs come through the field. But yeah, really kind of, I'd like to know the story behind Strike Tech and why they might be so far down the pack on whether or not they've come to terms with the car or what's going on.
Well, from what I've heard in memory, from what I last heard was the latest scoop with Strike Race Tech, they've actually been given instead of given like the 2016 models that we see in James Lee and both Scott Barlow, they've actually been given a previous version. They've only been given like the 2014 model. So that apparently they might, from what I've been hearing in Strike Race Tech, they're absolutely furious with Mercedes-Benz, giving them a bit of a slower package compared to what the other guys would be running. As we usually see, especially in the real world, when it comes to MotoGP racing, you have the Ducati factory team bringing in their brand new bikes for like the 2023, then you have the customer teams running 2023 bikes, but then you have some independent teams running 2022 models and even 2021 bikes, where even those bikes are, you know, excelling the 23 models. So, and I'm actually surprised as well that the 2014 model that both Shane Addard and Nick Pearce are running, it's like I said, especially throughout the pre-season, that really surprised me a lot, that because they've been given a very old spec car, that they would have actually gone really high up the grid, especially in pre-season. But when it comes to the actual race, and no development has actually been going through to Strike Race Tech, I'm actually very surprised. As we catch a quick glimpse of a replay of something happened between Pearce, I believe he's just getting out of the way from both WTC racing drivers. So yeah, a very surprised package that Strike Race Tech have, that they haven't been able to sign paperwork from the Mercedes-Benz saying, you know, we want the cars that both Black Rose Racing and Davey are running. So maybe they just ran out of specs, maybe they just didn't have enough on order for these guys, I'm not too sure. So, and it's very surprising, and you can definitely see in their placings at the moment, it's currently sitting in P11 and P13 overall.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over that whole old spec, new spec kind of thing, and yeah, I definitely wouldn't be happy if I was driving for Strike Tech. Granted, you'd be on an older spec car, so yeah, that's probably not what I want, and yeah, I wouldn't be really happy either, considering they're more than likely a factory Mercedes team. So obviously the aero package is different as well, from like a 2020 to 2016 model AMG, as well as, you know, the headlights and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, you know, I'd like to see them kind of move up the field. Maybe they might have a bit of a better race. You know, it's the old thing. People might struggle a little bit in quali and then come through in the race. But yeah, anything's possible. But yeah, probably not where I'd want to be seeing those guys. Considering you even got Barlow, Scott Barlow up in. Where's he sitting? He's sitting in 10th on track. Because we've seen here, look at the formation that we've got here, DJ. So we're about to see, we almost had a formation of both Gridline Racing and Black Rose Racing just trying to go in uniform with each other, but Barlow just got a little bit too hot on the throttle. As we can see there, the throttle application's bang. Yeah, no traction on those tyres. Even though the rears are starting to wear out a bit, it just didn't have the grip. As we've got only about a minute 40 to go. As we run through the grid, just before the end of the session, we have both Scarborough Motorsport entries currently sitting in first and second place, with Hutton leading the pack ahead of his teammate in DP Mario. Then Robert Foster, the first of the Beamers, in third place in the M6. And then we have James Lee for Black Rose Racing, currently sitting in P4. Lewis Atkinson in position 5, Morgan Davey, Bonduvi, and Ando rounding out your top 8. So DP Mario is actually doing a very solid job. Second overall and first in class by a country mile over GLR Scotty. So I'll actually be interested to see what is the actual difference between, like the time difference between DP Mario and GLR Scotty and Scott Taylor. So he set himself a 1 minute 45
1:03, and if we look down to maybe Taylor's fastest lap, currently sitting in P9. Let's have a quick look. So 1:46.1. So yeah, so he's a fair margin ahead of GLR Scott. He's absolutely blitzing the field, is DP Mario in the Gold Championship. So it's a great job by DP Mario to get that Porsche up the front and be with his teammate in currently occupying 1 and 2. But again, Scott, like Andrew Scott, is doing such a bit of an interesting tactic here. I'm not so sure this is the wise tactic that Scott needs to do to help his teammate.
Yeah, I'm very curious on what Andrew Scott's doing here, but we all know Andrew, and we all know what his little tactics can be up to. But another thing I want to kind of flex on is it's an hour race, and obviously they've got one mandatory pit stop. But the other thing is, you know, what kind of pit stops are we going to see? We're going to see a 1-stop, a 2-stop, a 3-stop. That'll be the other thing. But from history, Ando Scott is probably one of, if not the best person I've ever seen on tyre management. I'll give him that. He will have that crown forever until I find someone else. But yeah, you know, I've raced against him a lot of times, and yeah, as I said, he's by far the best person that I've come across in regards to tyre wear and usage, and even fuel saving too. He's just pretty crazy. But they're on their final lap now, coming through the bus stop. He might give him a big old push here. He'll sit in the slipstream and then give him a big old bump draft. As you can see, he's 6.5 tenths off his best. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see as Mead just bumps up the standings as well. Where did he jump to? Well, he just bettered his time there, so they're all coming across the line now.
Absolutely, so not much improvement there, nothing from the Gridline Racing team. As we see James Lee just sucking into the slipstream behind his teammate. Does he improve his lap time? He might be getting pretty close, actually. He does improve, and up into P3 goes James Lee for Black Rose Racing. Great lap there, and even his teammate in Scott Barlow doing very nicely. P6 overall, second in class in the Pro Championship. So that's a very good lap there by Scott Barlow and both James Lee for Black Rose Racing, who are looking to really solidify themselves as a top contender and really put the fight back to Gridline Racing and both Diffusion Race Engineering into those BMW M6s. So both the teammates doing a fantastic job trying to get themselves up as high as they can. Currently sitting P3 and P6, but I think we're going to talk about these Porsches, Ryan. Both Nathan Hutton and DP Mario. I mean, what a sight to see, and the Scarborough Motorsport is just absolutely dominating. Even despite the loss of Hosking and Kesby, these guys are doing an absolutely mighty job so far tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, previously racing around here, you know, I think I would probably like the Porsche too. You know, it might be more or less suited to this track, but yeah, you know, DP Mario is in the Gold Championship, but filling in for Patton in Scarborough Motorsport. But yeah, he's doing an outstanding job. James Lee's just behind him, 0.032 behind. So that slipstream that James got nearly bumped him up to second outright. But yeah, DP Mario second outright. That's an absolutely outstanding position there.
Yeah, absolutely, and a very good job by Scarborough Motorsport, doing a fantastic job occupying the front row here for round 7 of the MotorMotion Player1 GT3 Championship for Group A. We'll run through the order before we start the race. We have Nathan Hudson, DP Mario, and James Lee occupying the podium's positionings in first, second, and third. So congratulations to both Scarborough Motorsport and James Lee for Black Rose Racing. Currently just outside, not by a little bit of a margin behind, Robert Foster in the M6 doing a great job in P4. HC Lewis in the old girl in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, currently sitting in 12th place. And then the second place driver in gold class, Scott Barlow, currently sitting in P6 to be within that second range behind Hutton in first place. So that's a very good sight to see, and that shows some good progress on his end as he's actually leading the Gold Championship, and this is actually solidifying himself as a contender to be in the elite class next year. And then just outside, the championship leader in Morgan Davey, currently sitting in 7th place as the privateer, sponsored by Deeds Brewing. And then Wade Fonduvi actually showing some great performance finally in that Jaguar F-Type to be sitting in 8th place. Then we go down the order. We've got Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor in 9th and 10th place. So both Gridline Racing occupying the 5th row. So it's a very good job there. But a little bit surprising there from Andrew Scott. But as you said, he is very highly regarded as a tyre whisperer, and he will be looking to move. He'll be looking to put himself up higher in the grid at the end of this hour-long race. And then Aussie Taylor just outside the 11 with Nick Pearce in 12th, Shane Addard in 13th. Glenn Mead in the 2nd Diffusion in 14th, and then Tony Griffin, who was a late race substitute driver for Drew Ison, in 15th and last place. So like I said, the Strike Race Tech in both 12th and 13th place with that old spec Mercedes-Benz really struggling, and you could definitely see that in the results as well.
Yeah, certainly. Those Strike Tech cars being so far down the order, I'm actually really surprised. And obviously, even the old girl, the V12 Vantage there from Lewis Atkinson in 5th place there, I'm actually really surprised on that's pretty far up the field. But that another thing as well I've noticed with that V12 is it absolutely chews fuel, so that may kind of hinder Atkinson in the process, but we'll obviously wait and see. But other than Hutton having a blistering lap of a 1:44.8, from position 2 to position 5 outright, they're only separated by just over it's about 0.23 on the track, so really not much time at all. So
absolutely.
Even as well then, 7th from Morgan Davey with Scott in front of him, Von Juvie and Andrew Scott behind. They're all separated by what will be kind of 3, maybe 4 tenths. So, one kind of mistake on a corner and it's all over for you. But yeah, the qualifying times for their respective classes are actually pretty close. But yeah, for me at the moment, it looks like the Porsches are in the car to beat at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And DP Mario is putting in a stellar performance so far as the qualifier, who's the shock qualifier here in round 7 of the Player1 GT3 Championship, currently putting it on pole position and in 2nd place overall, only just under 5 tenths behind his teammate. So that just shows the pace of the MR cars that has around this track. So we're looking to see some strong performances with the BMWs, really a little bit faster than the Porsches in top end speed, but the Porsches, especially through this infield, Ryan, is going to be very strong, and I think that's definitely where they gain their times, especially, and even as well through the Le Mans chicane, through the bus stop. It's very important to get those corners right, to get that infield and the Le Mans right, and all you're just doing is you're just praying that that you don't see a big BMW N6 front grille just coming up your rear end.
Yeah, definitely. We always know that the Porsches kind of really lack top end speed, but is really good down the low end. Obviously, it's a flat 6 Porsche rear engine, rear wheel drive, so anything's possible. But until then, we shall go on a short break just before the race happens. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab a bite to eat, and we shall be back very shortly with Group A of the MotorMotion Player1 GT3 Championship Round 7 from Daytona International Speedway.
experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Rate grid is set. Drivers are ready to go for the next 1 hour race around Daytona International Raceway. So sit back, relax, and watch all the action happen as the drivers are on the grid, ready to go on their run to the line, and going to be a quite an interesting race, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a rolling start for our drivers this evening, and as we see, Nathan Hudson doing a very good job. DP Mario sitting in second place. They're both Porsche 911s doing a fantastic job getting themselves up the front row. But it's going to be single file going into turn one, so at least there's no cluster. But we are underway. Green flag racing. As I always forget how short the start line is for our drivers here. But so far, we've got Hudson currently sitting in first place. No really changes so far with Robert Foster actually looking to make some early moves on Atkinson in fourth place. But it looks to be all settled in at the moment with Hudson first, Mario second, Lee third. And we just have to kind of wait till we get onto the bankings on the outfield of Ryan so we can actually find some moves. But it looks like Lewis is really trying to hassle Lee's rear wing of that Mercedes-Benz, just trying to make a move, hopefully going into turn 5, but he's actually backed down a little bit and just sitting very pretty. Just don't want to make too many early moves in this opening phase of the race because it's an hour-long race, and early moves on and with mistakes can really compromise your strategy.
Yeah, from what I did notice, the Aston Martin absolutely blistered the start. Atkinson went around the outside of Mead there, and not Mead, sorry, Foster, and took him on the outside into one. And I can tell you that's definitely not where you want to be, but somehow he pulled it off in that Aston. But he's really on the back now, Lee. But would you want to stay behind Lee, push him towards the front, or would you want to pass him and see what you can do and battle the guys up the front?
I would definitely stay behind him and use a bit of bump drafting. As we see Morgan Davey actually gain a couple of positions from 7th to 5th, so a fantastic job by the privateer and the championship leader in the Platinum Championship Car 33, sponsored by Dees Brewing. Mercedes-Benz AMG doing a fantastic job getting himself up 2 positions at the opening phase of it. And as you can see there, both Lewis and Lee actually just doing a bit of bump drafting going into the Le Mans chicane. And they just kind of work together because the Porsches are starting to run away, DJ, in both Niff and Nathan Hudson and DP Mario just running away with first and second place in car 47 and 11. Doing themselves some pretty good jobs and really keeping that reputation high back in the factory at Scarborough Motorsport, keeping themselves alive both in the team's championship.
Yeah, they've definitely pulled out a little bit of gap here in the first phase of this race, but there's kind of not really been any other big movers other than Atkinson and Davies. Davies looking to go on the inside of Atkinson, but just pulls out of it, which is probably good. But then Foster runs really deep on the brakes as Atkinson makes that move there on Lee, coming into the hairpin there.
It's a cluster of cars battling it out for the last step of the podium, and it's all kicking off here. Davies sticking his nose into the rear end of James Lee, and he's actually made the move stick, so well done, Davey, getting that move. So in 3 positions made for Morgan Davey, currently sitting P4. As we go back to that action shot there, Morgan Davey just thought about a move there, Ryan, and unfortunately he didn't think he was going to make it, but I think Lee lost a bit of traction on the rear end of his Mercedes-Benz, and that just dropped him a position there. But as you can see that he's really flying through so far, 3 positions in 2 laps. So that's a great effort there in the opening stage for Morgan Davey.
Yeah, he's definitely made some big moves there, but now he's on the back of Atkinson. But I did watch the relative coming into the bus stop. They were about 3.6 seconds away from those Porsches on the lead of Nathan Hutton. But going after on the exit of the bus stop, the Porsches are just running away. They're onwards of 3.9 seconds now, but as they're approaching the top speed, these cars are actually pulling back in the Porsches. So yeah, those Porsches down low on corner exit. Morgan Davey looks for an inside move there on Atkinson into 1. Mate, that's very tight. Be careful not to run too deep there, because once you're in those weeds, you're definitely all for it. But look who's gone here. We've got Von Juvie on the back of Morgan Davey, so he's had some early moves there in that WTC Racing Porsche.
He's come from 8th place up to 5th, so Von Duvy's doing a fantastic job. So just like Davey, they're both moving up the grid as early as they can, and I couldn't believe, actually surprising. So Jaguar, actually, interesting enough, they've been struggling over the last few rounds, getting that car up to speed with the low speed corners, really struggling on low speed entry, and especially with the tyre wear. But with a track like this nature, where it's all high speed with a couple of 2 or 3 crucial braking zones, this car is actually excelling with pace, and the setup that these guys have from WTC Racing is doing a fantastic job. It's currently sitting in P5, lost a little bit of ground there to Morgan Davey, but you'll see that top end speed from the Jaguar really try to reel in that Mercedes-Benz in Morgan Davey and Von Duby. This is actually probably going to be looking so far to be actually one of his best performances so far, but it is the early stages here. We're not even 5 minutes into this session. We're about to cross 5 minutes right now, but Davey's right behind Atkinson going into the bus stop. But look at those Porsches ahead, DJ. They are absolutely flying away with this. And you can definitely see those 2 teammates are working with each other and trying to pull away from the rest of the pack behind them.
Yeah, well, obviously because Hutton is a little bit further down in the points, he's probably going to be wanting to get as many points as he can. But look at this Jag in a straight line. This thing is absolutely incredible. He's just pulled in some sort of magical time there through that back straight, through the bus stop, and they've just eaten that Aston Martin alive. So Atkinson has just gone from 3rd to 5th in a matter of what would be a couple of 100 metres straight.
Absolutely, and Von Duby just decided to go with the momentum, and Morgan Davey had all that momentum, making the move on Atkinson, and that's 2 positions lost in the span of, like you said, 200 metres, and that's an incredible pace that Jaguar's got so far. So really delivering on the Jaguar package that they've got here at Daytona. They did see, we did hear in the paddock that they actually did bring up a few engine upgrades to that Jaguar F-Type. So a bit of an engine package upgrade for the Jaguar team, and it's really showing. It's really showing here at Daytona with these long back straights.
Yeah, definitely. Andrew Scott gets a little bit loose there, but yeah, they're having a really good battle there as we start to just run down the field now. Obviously, we got Nick Hutton in first. Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart there. Nathan Hutton, sorry. And then obviously we got DP Mario, who is, as we said, he's in the gold class, filling in for Patton in Scarborough Motorsport. So second on track, but first in class. But yeah, I'm definitely. I'd be pretty happy if I was the team boss of Scarborough, but then obviously we got Von Duby in 3rd place. He's probably been the biggest mover at the moment so far in WTC Racing. But then second in class for the gold, going to be all the way down in Scott in 9th place. So Scott Barlow in 9th. So realistically, you've got DP Mario in 2nd on track, first in class, and then you got Scott down in 9th outright and 2nd in class. So I think that's probably where he wants to do, but he's currently battling with Aussie Taylor there for 2nd in class. But they've also got Scott Taylor as well on the back, as well as Peasy, who's in the Platinum Championship. So I don't think Peasy kind of really wants to battle with these guys. He's just gonna be like, boys, just let me see if I can get past you and get further up the track. But yeah, that performance of that AMG there, goes up the inside there of Scott Taylor there.
He's done a very good job there, just blocks the nose off from Scott Taylor and moves himself up into 11th place. But yeah, unfortunately, like I said, he is a little bit down the order. He's actually running last in class, so 7th overall in the Platinum Championship. And this is usually a sight that we see with Nick Pierce, unfortunately. So with the downgrade of the Mercedes-Benz AMG, that Strike Tech, both him and Shane Addard are actually getting this, you can definitely see why they're actually down the order there. And I'm actually very surprised as well, as Nick Pierce actually goes to the inside line on Aussie Taylor. So Aussie Taylor sitting 3rd overall behind Scott Barlow. So he's actually doing a very good job, and you can see that in both Jaguars, both Von Duby and Aussie Taylor. These Jaguars are absolutely flying. If you can get past Scott Barlow, he'll be getting into the rear wing of Andrew Scott, not too far, but you can definitely see there's some packs emerging, and my goodness, Piercy goes onto the double yellow line there, tries to force a move there, goes a little bit off track there, DJ. So I'm a little bit skeptical of that, as you as it is well known in the road rules in the real world, you can't make overtakes, you can't pass cars going over the double line.
Yeah, that is a definite ruling there, and you can't go down there. But that was maybe a little bit aggressive there by Peasy.
Oh, he's actually hit the barriers there. So as we go towards a replay, let's go on board, and this is the crucial moment. Unfortunate for Nick Pearce, as he sees it just goes from bad to worse, just clips the barrier. He might have actually got a little bit of a helping hand there from Aussie Taylor. I'm not sure, that might be a little bit surprising there.
Yeah, I'll try and find Aussie Taylor and we'll go back to that one. But yeah, I'm surprised to see what happened there. I'm not too sure. It looked to be a little bit of a netcode issue as well, but yeah, that's a really tough one to see and how it can work out. But not only that, he did get engine damage from that too, so he's going to drop a long way down the field. Obviously, no safety cars or cautions in this one, so it's going to be a long 49 minutes and 57 seconds there for Nick Pearce trying to claw all that time back. But yeah, that's definitely unfortunate. I know how that feels, mate, because I did it in the Daytona 24-hour.
Absolutely, and with the heavy damage that MotorMotion E-Series are running in their Player1 GT3 Championship, it's just going to be a long road ahead. As you can see, the cars, the leaders, going up into the second banking of the Daytona road course, or the actual, what is the actual Daytona oval course, coming onto the start-finish line. Nick Pearce is coming onto the back straight, going into the launch chicane. It is a grueling task to get that car back into the pit lane, so his race is just is kind of lost, unfortunately. But on lap 7 of this lead, we're less than 50 minutes to go. We've got the Scarborough Motorsport still leading 1 and 2, but DP Mario actually set the fastest lap so far ahead of his teammate, who's still leading the way in the Platinum Championship. And then we have Morgan Davey and Lewis Atkinson in 4th and 5th place. As you caught something there, Ryan.
Oh, it was James Lee. He went deep on the brakes there into turn 1. But yeah, Von Juvi's actually dropped down the pace there, dropped down the field. So I wonder if he had a bit of a compromised run coming out of the bus stop. But yeah, that DP Mario there in that Gold Championship is absolutely blistering. I was going to point out that he did have the fastest lap too. So he's 2/10 in front of his teammate on fastest lap, but he's currently just sitting in the slip, not letting him kind of get real far in front. But as I say that, Hutton just goes through a purple sector. So yeah, these Porsches are definitely on the pace now. But you know, Morgan Davian and Atkinson here are battling it out for 3rd on track, 2nd in class. So yeah, I'm definitely be excited to see here, because obviously having Davey there in 2nd in class, that will be pretty critical for his championship too. Obviously, considering Hutton is nearly 60 points behind him. So I think if he can do that, then he's pretty happy, because same as well, you've got Atkinson 4th on track, 3rd in class. So he's also a little bit in front of Hutton too, so as many places as he can get, it can probably be pretty valuable for him. But I don't know if you were James Lee or Von Juvi to see Hutton out in front there, because obviously that's maximum amount of points. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting one, as Atkinson nearly tries an outside move there again into turn 1.
And all that Hutton and DP Mario are doing are scoring valuable team points in this championship, Ryan, and it's really important. And it's really important for them to get themselves the maximum points and get us maximum and their cars. So when it comes to the teams championship, that's all they're racing for. They're just racing for pride, and they're just racing just to get these cars high up the grid, as will be Scarborough Motorsports. Hopefully for them, it's their first. It could be their first teams championship, as the pilot season was actually won by the then WTC-Racing team, owned and operated by Wade Morgan, who's currently sitting in P5 overall. And then, yeah, it's all about these guys sitting up ahead. So Morgan Davies actually thinking to himself, I don't want to really worry about Hutton sitting in 1st place. I just want to keep focusing on my championship, because it's not long to go in this championship run. After this round, it's only 3 more rounds. So we've had 3 rounds in a row here in the US of A. And then we head off east. If you're looking onto the map, they'll be heading west rather, to the borders of Japan, where they get themselves ready for round 8 in Suzuka, and then round 9 at a topless international racing course, where I think it's going to be a little bit of it's going to be a bit of tough love for the front wheel drive, front engine rear wheel drive cars compared to the MR cars and the Porsches, but the Porsches will definitely excel in these next couple of rounds.
Yeah, certainly. Well, obviously we've got Scarborough Motorsport out in front on 346 points, and then Diffusion Race Engineering is second behind on 312.5. So, you know, the closest driver to Scarborough at the moment is sitting all the way down here in 10th place with Brucey. So yeah. Probably not where they want to see. Oh my god, Scott goes so deep on the brakes there, nearly runs into the back of Bruce. But yeah, and then where's the other one? There's the other Diffusion Motorsport, Diffusion Race Engineering. So, you know, as for a team perspective, Scarborough Motorsport is definitely on for some blistering amount of points here. Obviously, you're looking at maximum amount of team points. Granted, they're both first in class, so. Yeah,
and Foster is actually down in 14th place there, so something happened. I believe that was on lap 5 or lap 6. So it took him to 13, and he didn't come in. It didn't look like he came into the pit lane unless he actually did to repair the damage. But he was actually sitting up pretty highly, and unfortunately, down in 14th last place is going to really compromise his championship. Unfortunately, so sitting in 14th place is the Diffusion Race Engineering, sponsored by Spotify and Cooke brakes, and unfortunately for him, it's very unlucky as we kind of see this in the TCR Cup, Brian. That is, he's got some great pace, and we also last saw in the Surefire Supercar Series with the Gen 3 spec model Chevrolet Camaros and Ford Mustangs, that he has some very strong pace. He's probably regarded as one of the fast drivers here in MotorMotion E-Series alongside Andrew Scott and a few of the other names like Morgan Davey. But unfortunately, his strategy and his race pace just kind of falls apart a little bit, and he just uses a lot of tires, uses a lot of fuel, and unfortunately for him, race strategy and racecraft is just not there where he should be, where I would normally see him up towards the front of the field. So really struggling to get those beamers working. Is both Mead in Pro Class in the Gold Championship and both Foster in the Platinum Championship. Is currently sitting second last, which Nick Pearce is taking that, and Von Duvy's actually coming to the pit lane. What's this for?
Looks like he's got some front aero and front suspension damage, so he might have come together or had a bit of a moment there through the box stop. I didn't really catch it on the track map, but yeah, this is not what we want to see with Von Duvy. Obviously, he was running third on track, so yeah, now he's just fixing the damage. Maybe fueling up, but he might try and run an alternate strategy here. Obviously, he is coming off a good result last Sunday in our series, so you know that's probably his best result at the moment. So you know, hats are pretty high at the moment for Wade, and yeah, you can run an alternate strategy. We have seen it work, but whether or not it actually does, that's a different story. But yeah, I think having Foster all the way down here in 13th place is probably not where he kind of wants to be. So, granted, they're sitting second in the teams championship, and both cars from Gridline Racing in Ando and GLR Scotty, who's in 7th. They're definitely going to be getting a lot more team championship points. You know, if you were kind of Gridline or Diffusion, would you really kind of be trying to hunt down Scarborough? But for me personally, I think that is definitely way out of reach, being the, you know, 33.5 points ahead. So
absolutely, and it's only about, we're less than 42 minutes to go in this race. We're about to approach we're on lap 11 of this hour long race, and yeah, it's very early days as we have to start thinking about tyre strategies and who's going to be really conserving those tyres, who's got the best wear. And I actually did see there that when you cut from Andrew Scott to Hudson in first place, you can see the tyre wear difference that he's got. And as we both really know well, that both Gridline Racing drivers, both Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor, are very highly regarded as like very good tyre conservers in this championship. And we've seen that on a few occasions where Scott was actually very close to winning his first race at Laguna Seca, and then unfortunately he lost it on the last lap to Morgan Davey, literally on the last lap with 5 seconds to go. Ryan, you should have seen the race itself. It was five seconds to go as they crossed the start and finish line, and he just lost the lead to Morgan Davey, and he ran out of fuel. Unfortunately, everyone else crossed the line to get their positions, and with it was a very heartbreaking moment for Andrew Scott, but he did back it up with a feature race victory last time out at Walkersburg. So both Andrew and Scott do a fantastic job with tyre management, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on these guys later into the race. But we're almost about to complete 20 minutes of racing so far, and I will definitely say so far the advantage goes to the Porsches. But as I say that, DP Murray is actually coming to the pit lane a little bit earlier than what we expect, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just kind of flicking through there as you were saying, but from looking at what I am with Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor, they've used exactly the same amount of tyre and fuel. So I personally would be prepared to see these guys maybe do a two-stop strategy. You know, get around to probably a 30-35 minute mark. You know, they may have a bit of a secret understanding on how long the tyres can last. So, you know, they may try a one-stop. I have heard from the a couple of drivers talking and stuff like that from the drivers' room. You know, a one-stop strategy is possible, but it's going to take a lot of conserving. But you know, at the moment we've raced for 20 minutes and they've only just used half of their right rear tyre. So would it, you know, be potential that we do see a one-stop from these gridline guys, and you know, maybe that may come into play towards the end, rather than saving so much time in the pit lane? Because we're looking at here, DP Murray, he's dropped to 33 seconds off the lead. So he was only roughly about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds off, and he's now 33 seconds. So I think that pit stop strategy there may really come into play with Andrew Scott and Scott Taylor come near the end of the race. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think we always know that Andrew Scott has always been really good with strategy. I had a really good battle in WTCC's series with him, but he always got me on tyre wear and strategy every single time.
There we go, and Nathan Hunt has responded to his teammates, so both Scarborough Motorsports just running that extra lap with Nathan Hutton. So obviously, being the lead driver in the race, he definitely had the call first priority to come into the pit lane, and unfortunately for him, he said he just wanted to go one more lap, which opened up the vacancy for
this comparison to the tyres. Sorry to cut you off there. Look at the right rear tyre of that Porsche, and look at the right rear tyre of that BMW.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that is a massive difference. So you're thinking, right, so you've got Hutton there using nearly what would be 90% of his tyres in what would be 11 laps, and you've got Andrew Scott using 55% in the same amount of time. So, you know, the strategy may come out to play. Even James Lee as well, he hasn't used anywhere near as much tyres as what those Porsches have. Scotty, as we predicted, coming through the field. So, yeah, this tyre saving is definitely paying off at the moment for Andrew Scott, and it may pay off for him in the end. So, you know, yourself, myself, we know you might start down the end of the grid, but pit stop strategy in these long endurance races definitely comes into play.
Oh, absolutely, and both Gridline Racing and Black Rose Racing are trying to do everything they can to get themselves a winning strategy to move to Gloucester, to move up in that team's championship, as they're currently sitting P3 with Gridline Racing sponsored by Valvoline and Black Rose sponsored by Inky and Chill Out. So they're really just trying to push themselves up the front of the pecking order, and running these long strategies is doing them a fantastic job, as we've seen both Porsches in Scarborough Motorsport come out of the pit lane on the first pit stop window, currently sitting 5th and 6th place. So Deep Murray couldn't get the undercut on his teammate. He actually closed up a little bit to his teammate from what I can see on the track map, but not too much. But we'll wait and see what happens up ahead, because with Andrew Scott and James Lee, they'll be looking to extend their stints out. I think I do have a feeling that James Lee has actually got a lot better fuel compared to Andrew Scott by a country mile.
Jeez,
so he's going to be definitely running a one-stop strategy. Andrew Scott has gone into the red now, so I don't think he's going to be able to make this work. Unfortunately, he might have to come in at the end of this lap. But but if he really compromises, he might go for an extra lap. That's really compromising your strategy whatsoever. And he's about to hit 36 minutes of racing, or 36 minutes of racing to go. So it's very tough. Unfortunately, I do feel that Andrew Scott will have to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, and James Lee, especially, he's got a heap ton of fuel in that Mercedes-Benz, so he can definitely go for at least another good couple 3 laps. And you know what? That'll take him. I think that'll take him to the 30-minute mark, right?
Yeah, from comparing the tyre wear to fuel usage, I think James Lee is definitely on the money here for a one-stop. You know, we've got 5.5 minutes to go. A minute 50 a lap. You're looking probably 2, if not 3 laps. That'll burn his fuel. You know, you're going to want to try and run as many laps as you can. Try and save a little bit of fuel. I did notice that Andrew Scott is pulling away as well. So yeah, he's not going to be able to get an extra lap. So we'll more than likely see Andrew Scott pull into the pits here. But same thing as well. Scott Taylor, we'll probably more than likely see him come in the pits. But yeah, James Lee, that's definitely interesting one. We'll try and find where his teammate is. I need to find him. Where is he? There he is. So he's down there in 6th place. Even his tyre wear and fuel usage too is exactly the same, pretty much to James Lee. So you know, these Mustangs of this Black Rose Racing is probably the benchmark at the moment. But look at where Hutton is here compared to where James Lee is. You know, he's only 6.8 seconds up the road, but I think
guys will have to do an extra stop.
Exactly, these guys are going to have to do an extra stop. So
yeah, and compared to Andrew Scott, who's coming to the pit lane right now, who will be sitting behind these guys. Barlow comes through on the exit of the pit lane, as we see Andrew Scott actually now come out of the pit lane, tucked in right behind Lewis Atkinson from NED Racing. Just currently sitting in position 7 overall. And yeah, you can definitely see with these guys, I have a feeling, unfortunately, if Ando really saves his fuel and really just goes for a conservation run, he might potentially go to the end, but he will be struggling on the rear. So unfortunately, I don't think he might be able to make the strategy work. He may have to come into the pit stop, but I did see there he did short fuel, so this is a strategy that he usually likes to play as well. Short fuel in the car, go for a shorter stint at the end, then have the freshest tyres of the lot. But his rival in Robert Foster's right behind him in the other BMW entry in Diffusion Race Engineering, currently sitting in position 8 in car 270. And as we see down the order there, we have Scott Taylor actually popping out inside the top 10 right behind Von Duvey, about 6 seconds behind Von Duvey in 10th place. But so far, I have a feeling, like you said, so far it looks to be the advantage going towards Scarborough Motorsport. But I have a feeling that Black Rose Racing are throwing a spanner in the works here, Ryan.
Yeah, you know, they're at 33 minutes here. That fuel usage that I'm seeing there from James Lee and from Scott Barlow now, you know, they may make the 30-minute mark, but you know, I think maybe as well, you know, a minute 50, a minute 48 lap, plus say 30 or 35 seconds pit time, they save an extra half a lap of fuel in this second stint. They'll pull off this one stop, and yeah, you know, 3.5 seconds back to Hutton in the Porsche. He's going to burn his fuel. He's going to burn his tyres, trying to come through and make up time to James Lee. You can really see him revving the absolute living guts out of that Porsche, trying to catch him, but that's the problem with the Porsche. You need to rev the absolute like maximum amount of revs to get the maximum amount of power, where the Mercedes is a low revving car, which theoretically you can save fuel because it produces so much power down low, being naturally aspirated, V8, front engine, rear wheel drive. That's probably the other thing as well, on why the Mercedes isn't wearing as much tyre. Obviously the engine's in the front compared to the Porsche, which is in the back. So I think theoretically they actually class the Porsche as an RR, so it's a rear engine rear wheel drive rather than a mid engine rear wheel drive. So that would definitely be critically, you know, like obviously you got your McLaren 720S and stuff, that's mid engine, you know, Ferrari and stuff like that, where it's kind of sitting just behind the back seat, where the Porsches here, they're essentially, you know, you open the boot and they're right there, so they're not kind of underneath the back window. So maybe that will be critical in the end run of this thing, because you can really see how much tyre Hutton's already used on that right rear. He's definitely burned quite a lot trying to catch James Lee, but as you said, look at this here.
He's come through another lap, so he is definitely going to complete half race distance on this set of tyres, and this is a big effort for Scott's actually lost a position to Lewis there, so he knows Lewis is on a different strategy, so Scott's just let him through. Scott Barlow rather has actually let him through, and he's not really contesting that whatsoever, so he's trying to get one up on DP Mario, but I have a feeling he's a little bit too far back behind DP Mario, so whether he's actually in contention to challenge Mario for the lead in Gold Class, we'll wait and see, because DP Mario's really extended that gap out over his rival in Scott Barlow, and that's definitely paid homage to what he did in qualifying, just getting P2 overall, just under 5 tenths behind his teammate, and really running with his teammate in the early stages. But James Lee is really going on the defensive, trying to block from Hudson, but Hudson has better traction, goes around the outside of Lee and makes a fantastic move. Coming onto the exit of turn 5, really had the traction there, a little bit of bumping there on the exit of turn 5, and then coming up towards on the exit of the infield, going onto the outfield for the 17th time here at Daytona Road Course, makes it a clean move around the outside. So well done to Hudson, making a very strong move there. But Lee knows that he has to come into the pit lane, and you can just see that he's really lifting off that car. He's really just trying to lift and coast his car into the pit lane. But there we are. We are under 30 minutes to go, Ryan, and you can see those Porsches are really creating a sandwich for the Black Rose Racing Mercedes AMG, sponsored by Inky. They're really closing that gap massively, but he knows that he has to come into the pit lane. One stop is needed for James Lee, and can he make this work at the end of it? We'll find out.
Yeah, he just lifted and coasted there, saved a little tiny bit of fuel. You know, any fuel you can save by doing that, that's going to pay off massively there. But as well, you know, we had Scott Barlow getting harassed by Atkinson. You know, he's done well. He's not racing him for class honours. He's obviously sitting second in class, or what was second in class, behind DP Mario. So, you know, I wouldn't have really been battling as well Atkinson. I would have just let him go. As much as outright position would have been good. You know, you're sitting well in class. Your strategy is more than likely on point for what you plan for. You know, you can see your tyre usage, you're under that 30-minute mark. Honestly, I think, you know, my Monopoly money, or my driver of the day at the moment would probably be going towards these Black Rose Racing boys. But yeah, I'll definitely be waiting to see on what they can pull out towards the end. But yeah, this is definitely going to spice it up a little bit on how long the pit stops are and whereabouts they're roughly going to come out. You know, you see James Lee here, 34.1 seconds behind Hutton there. So I don't know how. It looks like it'll be about 20 seconds pit time loss plus pit entry, pit exit. It's going to be tight for this last stop. So I think
be very tight.
You know, yeah. James Lee's maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, like, he doesn't really need to battle the cars ahead of him, because he knows that everyone else has to do a second stop. And as we saw there with Scott Barlow, he actually came out right behind Nick Pearce on the exit of the pit window, of the exit of the pit exit, and essentially he's just really, all he needs to do is just really coast the car, use a bit of slipstream. But I don't think these guys, the Black Rose Racing, they don't want to be looking for overtakes. They just want to be using people's bump drives. They want to be working together, just try and push them up the order. But they will know that when it's time to pounce, that they will pounce, and they will have to make those overtakes, because whether they will know if they're getting held up or whether they are actually losing time to the guys ahead of them. So we'll keep an eye on that gap when Nathan Hutton actually pits for Scarborough Motorsport. So it's still leading the way. First and second place is Scarborough Motorsport. The Porsche's really running in uniform, first and second place. Morgan Davey, the championship leader for the Platinum Championship, currently sitting very nicely, a very healthy P3 for car 33, so a fantastic drive for Morgan Davey. We'll have to wait and see where he fits in all of this, but he's set his personal best with a, I believe it's at a 1 minute 45.9 on the screen there, so it's a very nice lap there by Morgan Davey. And then Lewis Atkinson in the old girl Aston Martin V12 Vantage, very thirsty car that car is, but as he saw with his teammate back at Laguna Seca and Drew Ison, pulled off a winning strategy of running the one stop and really saving the fuel, getting that fuel consumption really low in the Aston Martin, and actually winning the Gold Championship on the one stop strategy. So he did a fantastic job. So hopefully it inspires NED Racing to do more or less run the same strategy. So maybe we might be running a similar strategy in the Lobby B. So if you haven't already, we're covering both lobbies here in the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. So go like and subscribe to the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and follow, as we said, follow DJ SX Pointed in the, also known as Disappointed, in who's commentating and bringing you the live stream. And also our good friend in George Cooke in Gracie Could Kung Fu. He also does his Twitch streaming there as well for all of his events there. So follow those boys on those channels, but also to follow the Player1 GT3 Racing here on MotorMotion E-Series YouTube.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but yeah, the Group B boys and girls are still racing over there. Obviously, we have Monica Camilleri. Oh, Tony Griffin gets a 2-second penalty there. Looks like he shortcut the entry to that bus stop a little bit too much there. Usually that happens on the exit. You know, you run a little bit too far to the left on the grass. Obviously, we do have pretty hefty penalties here, so you kind of don't really want to get that. But Griffin as well, he's kind of moved up the order. You know, he's on an alternate strategy, as we see Foster jumping to the pits now.
Yeah, so he's coming to the pit lane. This could potentially be his last stopper. You can see that right rear tyre, my goodness, is absolutely burning through on that BMW M6. So he'll be looking to try his best to get to the end of this stint, but it's going to be very tough as we see Griffin pull ahead. And it looks like Shane Attard from Strike Race Tech is going to be looking to tuck in front of him. No, he unfortunately doesn't. So he sits behind Robert Foster, and still down the order is both Strike Race Tech Mercedes-Benz 13th and 15th place. Ryan, my goodness, it just if your debut season of MotorMotion can't get any worse than this, then I just don't know what it could be.
Yeah, wow, that I definitely feel for those Strike Race Tech guys. Obviously, you know, they are battling out in the Platinum and Gold Championship. Obviously, Peach is in the Platinum, so this, you know, I wouldn't like to be sitting down this far down in the championship. Obviously, looking to be, I think he just got lapped. He did.
Yep. There you go.
So, yeah,
the first lap driver in Nick Pearce has been lapped by Nathan Hutton. So a platinum driver to platinum driver, and that's. I mean, I don't want to put it in a bad way, but it kind of is a little bit. It is in a way just a little bit. I guess, you know, just not what you want to see. You see Hutton right ahead of him, and he is leading Platinum Championship. So it's very hard on the Strike Race Tech boys.
Yeah, you know, you never like to see a lap driver, but I think this has mainly got to cause with that lap one, that turn one incident where he did hit that tyre wall there, and obviously, you know, you turn one, you've missed the pit lane, and you've got a very long, probably roughly about a 3-minute lap there. So, yeah, that would have been a very pretty hurtful lap there for Nick Pearce to mosey on around with that engine damage. You know, aero damage is bad enough, let alone engine damage here, where you kind of need as much engine as you can to get around this banking and stuff like that. But closest car to Nick Pearce is Scott Barlow for Black Rose Racing. He's 53 seconds ahead as well. Wow. You know, that's, yeah, as I said, closest car to him as well. Scott Barlow is not in his class, so probably not where Scott Barlow wants to be either at the moment, but this obviously has the pit strategies to play out for him, as we've got Dids Attard just in front of him here, 3 seconds up the road. So, you know, they Scott Barlow and Attard are racing for track position essentially, but from what I can see here, Attard will need to pit again. You know, he's gone under 25% worth of fuel, so we're seeing, I reckon, maybe him pit around the maybe 17-ish roughly minute mark. Yeah, they're probably not what Strike Race Tech want this late in the season.
Absolutely. And you have to feel for Strike Race Tech. So obviously going into this season, they had really high expectations to move to be up the pecking order. But what would you do in a situation where, you know, the Strike Race Tech, unfortunately, really struggling in this championship, and for them, you know, for their real world sponsors in Strike and Recaro, just trying to impress their sponsors. But it hasn't gone to plan with them. And so what would you think they would need to do in the off season once this championship is over? Obviously, with only 3 rounds to go, none of the drivers are in contention of the championship. Do you really just try to go full send on these last 3 rounds in both Japan and Mount Panorama later in the season, or do you just really try to focus on yourself as a driver and try and build a team that can really contend in season 2 of the championship?
If it was me and I was kind of struggling this much with the championship, I'd kind of try and work out whether or not if it's a car issue or if it's a driver issue. I have noticed in the past, obviously myself, from our track stars touring car season, I was leading the championship for a little bit there, and coming towards the end, I really just kind of lacked the pace, and I do believe that was just a personal thing for me. So I had definitely kind of put my head down and focused on kind of myself a little bit. So maybe that might be them, but also it might be a car thing. So as always, understanding the car towards driver, car, engineer, team, all that kind of stuff. If it's not high for the drivers, they're not going to perform. But maybe the tuning has gone the wrong way as well. Maybe the engineers put in maybe a wrong tune or something like that. But yeah, for me, I would more or less suggest it's probably a driver point of view. But I do know Nick Pearce. I have raced with him before, and yeah, it's not usually where we kind of see him. But yeah, if that was me, I'd definitely get back to the drawing board. Whether you kind of develop the car a little bit more, or just yourself. But I wouldn't be happy at all.
Nah, exactly right. And unfortunately, the season hasn't gone to plan. Unfortunately, as he actually is about to get lapped by the championship leader in Morgan Davey in 3rd place. We see a few drivers coming in. We see Aussie Taylor, both WTC Racing boys coming into the pit lane. So very surprising to see the WTC boys down the order now. So they actually had some very strong pace. So we did see with Von Duvi as highest 2nd place in class in the Platinum Championship, but is well down the order in 10th place. So something really strange happening with the Jaguar Gremlins, as they have been recurring in this championship. The Jaguars seem to have a lot of good pace in the pre-season, then unfortunately they're really losing their pace advantage. But we're seeing the Porsches here on with about less than 19 minutes to go. We're seeing them looking to come into the pit lane right now. Nif's actually come into the pit lane, so this is actually very surprising, Ryan, that it's actually Hudson's turn to come into the pit lane first, because last time it was DP Murray. So I wonder if he's actually struggled on the fuel numbers compared to DP, as we see both Atkinson and Scott actually come through onto the start-finish straight with a little bit more fuel in their hands. And you can definitely see there, Mario saved a lot of fuel compared to his teammate.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mario, and he did short shift a couple of times there, coming from turn 1, 2, 3, 4. He was short shifting 3rd, 4th, but the other thing I'm keeping an eye on is where Ando is. So Ando's gone, as you said, for this alternate strategy. Short fuel the car, run a little bit longer. He was about 10 seconds or so behind Hutton when he came in. So Hutton's going to have to put more fuel in this stop. Oh, he's gone for 100%. So he's gone for a full tank of fuel.
A full tank, a fresh set of tyres, and a full send to the end with only less than 18 minutes to go. So if Nif is looking to really win this race, he really needs to send the car through. But here's an interesting thing here, Ryan. We can see he's actually come through into the pit lane. He's come out on a fresh set of tyres and a full tank of fuel. But look where James Lee is. He's down there in 7th place. So the strategy that Black Rose Racing that we thought was actually going to be very strong. Unfortunately, some mistakes on James Lee's hands, as we see there on lap 17 and 18 with 2-minute laps. That could have been maybe when he came into the pit lane, but I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out afterwards. But his strategy hasn't really worked at all. So I wonder if the short fueling and short shifting with the car and running long on tyres, maybe we thought it could have been a very good strategy, but unfortunately it's paid. It's gone the wrong way for Black Rose. We'll have to find out very shortly what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm also kind of curious about that one, as I've seen him short shifting quite considerably there. But we got DP Mario in the pits now. Lewis Atkinson has gone past, so he'll probably get another lap. He'll come in there with roughly about 15 minutes to go. But the other thing is the amount of fuel. Mario is going to put in less, but how much Nif has put in the car? He's put in 100 litres of fuel, so that car's going to be heavy. know, where does Ando come out in this? You know, he's coming into the pits now, where Hutton's coming over the straight start finish line, but DP Mario is where we're going to want to have a look and see. He comes out.
He's about the pit lane right now. He's going to be, looks like he's going to be ahead of his teammate. Actually, he's come ahead of his teammate in Nathan Hutton. So DP Mario with the short fuel, a very strong strategy by Scarborough Motorsport, takes the lead away from Hudson. So car 11, a fantastic strategy by DP Mario. You called it there, Ryan. The short fueling and the conservation that DP Mario had in his Porsche 911 has worked to perfection, and actually taking the lead away from Nathan Hudson in third place. Andrew Scott as well played a strategy very nicely to be ahead of James Lee, but just sitting behind in Morgan Davey in fourth place. But we have to keep our eyes on Lewis Atkinson, who's leading the way in that Aston Martin, coming through the bus stop right now. Will have to come into the pit lane. He's getting held up a little bit by Nick Pierce, but is going to use that slipstream to his advantage for that in lap, and let's see how much he actually puts in the car, because this could be a very crucial part of the race for HC Lewis to be actually in contention and fighting for this podium.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an interesting one. He's using that slip there to pull him in towards that pit. You know, he gained nearly 3/10 there by sitting in that slipstream, but 20 seconds or so, or 22 seconds, I think that Lewis is either going to come out in the middle of these two Porsches or just behind. So he's going to absolutely go full send on this thing. The other thing we need to look at here is Morgan Davey is 6.1 behind Niff and Mario. So he's actually lost out in the pit sequence by running that two-stop strategy. But Ando's hot on his heels. So Ando's going to come on the charge here to try and get Morgan Davey. But this is the battle here that I want to see and want to find out where he comes out. So
they've just got the tyres on, they've got the fuel in. Unfortunately, it looks like the Scarborough Motorsports are just going to get ahead, unfortunately, but we need to keep our eyes on him ahead if he's going to get ahead of Morgan Davey and Andrew Scott as he comes out of the pit lane. It looks like he might be just ahead. He's going to go side by side with Morgan Davey, chops the nose away from that Aston Martin, and he takes third place back. So Lewis slots into fourth place, and Morgan Davey pulls through to P3. Lewis Atkinson sitting in P4, but he's got at least 2 laps fresh set of tyres over Morgan Davey, so that'll become crucial at the end of this race here. But you've got the Scarborough boys in first and second place. DP Mario in the Gold Championship, leading his teammate in Platinum Championship, Ryan. So the last time we saw a Gold Championship leader actually beating the higher class in the GT3 Championship was last time out in the I believe it was in the pilot season, where both GLR Scotty actually beat the rest of his grid, as he was in the Silver Championship, beating a Gold driver in that championship as well. So we definitely saw in the pilot season, which was an exciting season for the inaugural debut of MotorMotion E-Series, and yeah, we saw silver drivers beating Gold drivers. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's always good for me, I think, seeing the lower class drivers really taking it to the higher class drivers. You know, it just shows, you know, them really making their point as well. You know, DP Mario, it's, from what I've heard as well, it's his kind of debut in here as well. So yeah, I'm actually really impressed by what Mario's done there. I think Foster there has had a bit of net code and drove into the wall, but yeah, the drivers here are very interesting, as Morgan Davey and Lewis Atkinson are really tussling it out here. But you know, where would you want to be in this fight? Would you want to be Morgan, would you want to be Lewis, or would you want to be Ando?
Oh, I just don't know. It's so interesting. You've got 3 of the best Australian sim racing drivers here, or actually with Lewis as being a Kiwi. So you know, you've got your Aussie, your Australasian, Australian, New Zealand drivers battling it out for the last place on the podium. And you can see the 2 Scarborough Motorsport Porsches coming up to turn 6 right now onto the outfield. These guys are still in the infield section. I just don't know. What do you do? Like, because I guess you're really just trying to push through, and you really want to move yourself up the front of the grid. But these cars are really struggling, both Mercedes, Aston, and Beamers. Well, even the Beamer as well. I've seen them struggling a lot compared to the rest of the cars around them.
Yeah, you know, you can see here as well, Ando's kind of dropped off a little bit, but I don't know if that's got to do with Ando saving fuel or saving tyres, or what's going on. Maybe we might see a late charge by Ando. You know, we'll let these guys use up their tyres, use up their fuel, and we'll see that Gridline Racing Beamer come through the field, but he pulls nearly 3/10 on them just through the bus stop there. So I think, you know, Ando is probably one of the smartest drivers I've seen, as we see Morgan Davey and Lewis Atkinson fighting it out here. Lewis nearly going around the outside, but in saying that, he's burning time to Ando. As I said, he's within 8/10 distance now, so that's within slip.
That's not the strategy I would have gone for Lewis, but he's going to go around the outside, going into turn 1. It's very risky trying to go for a move. He does the wise thing, backs off, tucks into the rear wing behind the privateer and Morgan Davey and Lewis Atkinson, and sitting back at P4. But like you said, it is closing the gap to for Ando to close up into these two to take the P3 away. So you can see definitely two battle packs there: the battle pack for first place and the battle pack for last for the last spot on the podium. So this is some exciting racing here, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned for the next 10 minutes of Player1 SimGear GT3 Championship Racing, with DP Mario in gold class leading the way ahead of his teammate in Nathan Hudson. And we have Morgan Davey on the podium. As we look down the order, we see James Lee in 6th, Robert Foster 7th, and Wade Von Duvey in 8th place. So yeah, what was a strong start by the race.
There we go. I was about to say we just nearly lost you there. Yeah, no, that was a very strong start there by Von Duvey, but seeing him down here in 8th place, probably not where he wants to be. But from what I can see, the next best person for gold class is down here in Scott Taylor. So he's in a battle at the moment with
Barlow. Yeah,
with Barlow
so
as well.
So Barlow with the one-stop strategy, you can see the tyre difference, and looks like Scott Taylor's actually done a very good job, because he's on fresher tyres and a little bit more fuel, or fuel we could say safe to get to the end of this sim with 10 minutes to go, with less than 10 minutes to go rather. And Scott looks like he might be sitting P2 away in gold class, but you can see there, it's incredible the pace difference that DP Mario has over his gold class competitors. He's sitting P1, not just P1 in class, but P1 overall, Ryan. And his nearest contender is GLR Scotty and Scott Taylor in 9th place overall, 2nd in class. That's absolutely incredible effort that DP Mario is doing tonight.
Yeah, you know, he's keeping up to pace with Nick Hutton, Nathan Hutton, sorry. So, you know, they're doing 145s in those Porsches, and probably the next maybe closest car would be Morgan Davey or Lewis Atkinson here. They're doing 46s, so something about those Porsches, whatever Scarborough Motorsport have done, they've really found some mysterious pace in that Porsche. So I think, you know, at the moment, my driver at the moment will be going to DP Mario. You know, he's been up the front from qualifying, and he's put in a solid performance at the moment in that number 11 machine. So yeah, as you said, that time difference as well, you know, we'll jump back to here, that's 40.9 seconds. So
wow,
the time difference between first in class in DP Mario and then Scott Taylor down here in 9th overall, 2nd in class, you know, it's quite considerable, which has now just gone to 41.3. So he's pulled nearly.
Oh, Scott Barlow right behind, just really looked at the car and he's hit the barrier there. That's front splitter damage for Scott Barlow. Just caught it in the background there. Apologise to you, Ryan, but he really just went to go full send around the outside, lost traction and got a snap of oversteer, and my goodness, that is front splitter damage for Scott Barlow. That's unfortunately his race ruined. He's got himself a bit of a gap over Glenn Mead in Diffusion Race Engineering, so I don't know whether if Barlow's going to come into the pit lane and fix that up, but with only nearly 7 minutes to go, I don't think it's really necessary. I think Barlow might have to hold the damage off just for a little bit longer, but that's ruined his chances of getting P2 overall.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like he got the grass on the inside, tried to recover it, had it well done there, but as soon as he got on the power there, that low end torque which this Mercedes has, it's just kind of spat him, spun the left rear tyre and just spat him into the wall. But you know, his outright pace, I don't know if he'll be able to sit on that damage or not, but it looks like he's going for it. So he's going to really try and hold Mead and Aussie Taylor behind him. But for for me, I don't know if that may be the right thing to do, but I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe he's got a bit more insights than what I do.
Well, there's not much more you can do, because you lose out, you're going to drop to the rear of the field no matter what. But whether you just drop to the rear, play it safe, fix the car up, and just maybe set in some personal best and fastest laps. But you can see there, Glenn Mead and both Aussie Taylor really catching up to Scott Barlow, and this is for the last spot of the podium, DJ. This is incredible, with Mead actually trying to fend off from Aussie Taylor in car 420 versus car 999. And they're really trying to catch car 36 and Scott Barlow for Black Rose Racing. He's just losing the car again. So this is a nice little battle pack. We'll stay with these guys for a little bit more, as we still have the top three still occupying their spots, with DP Mario still leading the way. But Scott Barlow, with front splitter damage, is really struggling to get this car around this track, and he's going to lose a lot of time on this front straight with the front wing really damaged on his Mercedes-Benz AMG. And you can see that with the slipstream. Glenn Mead didn't need a second invitation. He's going to go around the long way and will take 10th place up. He'll say, thank you very much, I'll take 3rd overall. And Scott Barlow is actually losing to Aussie Taylor as well. So he's gone from 3rd to 5th in a span of a few hundred meters, just like we saw with one of the drivers in the early stages of the race as well. So Barlow, unfortunately, this day is just gone from bad to worse. Tried to make the one stop work, but unfortunately, I just don't know. Like, it could have worked. Like, I have a feeling that a one-stop strategy could have worked, but unfortunately, something must have happened in those early stages. But we look up front. Glenn Mead is actually losing a position to Aussie Taylor. So Aussie Taylor's actually taken third in class there. Big Bruce the Shark, and Glenn Mead is actually coming around to the inside line. So we see Aussie Taylor's taking a bit of a slipstream away from Glenn Mead, and he's done a very good job there with power of that Jag, really coming to avail on that front straight. And he's taken 3rd away from Glenn Mead there, so that's 3rd overall for Aussie Taylor.
Yeah, that's some good performance there from Aussie Taylor, as he just used that Jag's power there. But the other thing is, Scott Barlow really wants to kind of be careful, because from what I've seen, just in that matter of 3 corners, Tony Griffin has pulled 2 seconds on him. So, you know, we may have Scott Barlow dropping to the back of the Gold Championship, and having Griffin come through, and as well as Attard come through. Yeah, because these guys are currently obviously battling for position 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Griffin and Attard will be battling Barlow for that position as well, so they're not a lap down on any of those gold class drivers. So these two are really, they're seeing the time come down. Griffin's definitely seen the time come down on this back straight, as we see that time really dropping very fast for Tony Griffin, and as well as Shane Attard. So they'll be right on the rear wing of that Black Rose Racing, and it's just very unfortunate to what happened there. But what does Shane Attard do? Does he go for a move on Griffin? But Griffin's blocking the inside line, going to the Le Mans chicane on lap 31 of this 1 hour endurance race.
Tony Griffin escaped with a penalty there, but yeah, they pulled that time down to 3.5 seconds. So that was 8.1 at this point last lap. So that pulled what would be 4.5 seconds, nearly 5 seconds now in just a lap. It's going to be close at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be very close at the end there, so I won't be surprised if Barlow drops the last in class, unfortunately. But with 3 minutes to go, DJ, we have DP Mario in the Gold Championship, still leading the way ahead of his teammate, but he's defending from his teammate. His teammate really wants to get back in front of him, but I'm not so sure what the strategy is going to be at Scarborough Motorsport, as their team manager and the team engineer, and Dylan Scarborough is actually currently racing in the Bronze Championship. He's doing a really good job there. So the team engineer, the team manager is not able to tell his drivers what to do in this situation, whether they just settle for a 1-2, who will take the line first, we'll wait and see. But I guess in a way, it doesn't really matter, Ryan, because they're both first in class.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't help to notice that Mario helmet. I've looked at it the whole race, and it's been staring me straight in the eye. But yeah, they're obviously first in class. Look, you can see it right there. Just Mario staring you straight in the eye. Oh, speaking of which, Mario misses the apex there into 1 and really compromises his exit there for Hutton. But does he defend, or does he let Hutton move? No, he doesn't.
No. Wow, very, very wise there by Hutton. I guess in a way, these guys just don't want to fight each other. They just want to steal the good points there, as we saw Hutton actually get the fastest lap on the last lap there, with a 1 minute 45.1, so very strong laps there from Hutton. And we can see the battle pack of 3rd is still raging on, with Davey in 3rd place, and then we have Griffin Oh, no, sorry, not Griffin. Lewis in 4th and Ando in 5th. But the battle pack for 5th place in gold class is pretty strong here. Adod's actually made the move on Griffin, and these guys will definitely getting themselves past Barlow. So we can see there the pace difference with that front splitter damage that Barlow's done. It's unfortunate for him. He's just throwing out the white flag, unfortunately, and he's only got one more lap to go at the end of this, and that is the end of Barlow's chances of getting onto the podium. He was looking to be a certain podium runner, and now finished last in class, Ryan. That's gonna be gut wrenching for you.
Yeah, for sure. You know, they were definitely looking really positive, roughly about the halfway mark here. Oh,
I think contact was made between Adod and Griffin there going into turn 1. As we see a quick replay, I did see a puff of blue smoke coming onto the rear end of Adod's car in the front locks on Griffin's. Yeah, he just went a little bit too deep there. Oh, he's held off nicely. Just gave that position back, didn't take advantage of it. Well done by Griffin. But yeah, continue on with your point there, Ryan.
Yeah, you know, that one-stop strategy really could have worked for Barlow here, but you know, I do feel for him, because it was definitely working, and then obviously, you know, he's battling for the podium there. But yeah, I definitely feel for him. I feel for James Lee as well. You know, they looks like they compromised a lot of time there, but actually, what I'm looking at here, James Lee is going to cross the line when the checkered flag drops. So he would be the first of the runners coming through onto the start-finish straight. 2 second, 1 second as they cross the line. There you go. James Lee does cross the line first. Well, not first overall, but he will cross the line first and not be able, unfortunately, what is registered in the game, a lap down from the other drivers. But we'll keep our eyes on DP Mario, who is going to be leading the way, coming out of the infield for the last time and onto the outfield section. And my goodness, DJ, what a race both Scarborough Motorsport boys have had. And HC Lewis and Lewis Atkinson has actually made the move on Morgan Davis. So 2 laps younger tyres has helped Lewis massively to get P3, to snatch P3 away from Morgan Davey, but that'll be third overall, second in class for Lewis. Davey will take out the podium positions in Platinum Championship, but what a drive that DP Mario's had. And I don't think the boys are going to be really fighting each other going to the start-finish line. I hope Dylan Scarborough is ready to take some team photos, because these boys are going to be crossing the line 1 and 2 for the last time around the final banking here at Daytona International Road Course. Onto the banking at Daytona, it's going to be Scarborough Motorsport 1 and 2, but DP Mario in gold class taking out the victory ahead of Nathan Hudson, who takes out the Platinum Championship. It is a 1-2 victory finish for Scarborough Motorsports. Congratulations to the boys up in the yellow Porsches, with Lewis Atkinson in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage in 3rd place overall, 2nd in class. Morgan Davey in 3rd overall class in the Platinum Championship, and Andrew Scott just outside the podium, 4th in class, 5th overall. But what a race that was, DJ. And that's actually the first shock here in MotorMotion E-Series, a gold class driver taking the overall victory. Yeah, that's definitely very surprising. He nearly got pipped at the end there by Hutton in the other Scarborough Motorsports car, 0.067. So nearly got pipped, but yeah, that's actually outstanding. You know, they had a 9.5 second gap next to the car behind them in Lewis Atkinson in that V12 Vantage. But yeah, you know, I thought, you know, Ando or James Lee's strategy was going to pull off, but you know, it's just so unfortunate that it didn't. I had high hopes for them.
Yeah.
I really did, but yeah, it's just very unfortunate that it didn't. So.
Yeah. And if you have a look at where DP Mario finishes, he finished ahead of all Platinum drivers. So not only will this benefit himself in a championship, this will also benefit Scarborough Motorsport in the team's championship, because maximum points as a gold class driver gets you top points in any championship whatsoever. So DP Mario getting the highest points for Scarborough Motorsport, finishing 1st overall and 1st in class. This is only solidifying Scarborough Motorsport's chances of clinching the title, which they were very close to winning last time out in the Pilot Championship, but they lost out to WTC-Racing. And DP Mario, a fantastic drive, finishing 1st overall. Nathan Hutton in 1st in class, but 2nd overall. So Scarborough 1-2 with the Porsche 911, sponsored by Nulon and Karcher and Juiced Motorsport. juiced energy drink, with H.C. Lewis in third place, but second in class. Morgan Davey, third in class, fourth overall. Andrew Scott, fourth and fifth overall. James Lee, fifth in class. Von Duvey, sixth. And Robert Foster just down the order there, unfortunately getting some early stint damage and transiting through to the pit lane. And then we have the second place in the gold championship there, Ryan. We see GLR Scotty right back behind there, so nearly almost going a lap down to DP Mario. That's absolutely incredible, the pace that DP Mario's had. But GLR Scotty and Scott Taylor takes second place in that gold championship, with Glenn Mead yet again back on the podium for Diffusion Race Engineering. So a bit of relief there, a bit of trophy coming back to the Diffusion Race team based in New Zealand. Aussie Taylor just missing out on the podium, finishing fourth overall. So Dids and Shane Adard for Strike Race Tech, the team leader, in 12th place and fourth in class. Tony Griffin, fifth place in class. Scott Barlow, unfortunately, with that late race damage on the front splitter, had third place overall, but finishes last in class, as well as Nick Pearce down in 14th and 15th place.
Yeah, what a race that was. Yeah, I that was definitely interesting there. I had my thoughts, and I had my doubts, and I also had my positives there. But yeah, that one-stop strategy actually surprisingly didn't work. So, which is very unfortunate, because I had a feeling it would. But maybe more or less time loss is definitely probably the critical one there. But if you look at it, the top 6 drivers are all within 145s, but the fastest driver was Hutton with a 145.1. Closest driver behind him was Lewis Atkinson with a 145.3. So, and then Morgan Davey 145.3, and Andrew Scott 45.4, and then DP Mario 45.5. So theoretically, DP Mario was the slowest, the 5th slowest car on track
Wow,
in regards to fastest lap, and he still came off with the win. So, it's a good odd thing. Consistency will pay off, and which is what's happened here for DP Mario. He's pulled off the consistent drive there, consistent laps, stayed in the mix with Hutton, and he's really paid off. He overcut Hutton in the pit sequence too, so that fuel saving while being behind him really kind of paid off and worked for him. But then I don't think Hutton kind of really had much of a fight, but then he nearly took it where he could. But yeah, I think that's definitely a big ups there for a 1-2 from Scarborough Motorsport, and especially being both platinum and gold drivers on top there. So yeah, as I said, that's going to be a solid points haul for Scarborough Motorsport. But then seeing where Diffusion Racing is, you've got your first driver in Foster down there in 8th place on track, 7th in class, and then you've got Glenn Mead down there in 10th on track. So, that's going to be a critical points haul for Scarborough Motorsport, which, if it was me as a team boss, I'd be absolutely outstanding with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And both, unfortunately, not the race that Foster wanted, but at least some silverware coming back to the New Zealand camp in Diffusion Race Engineering with Glenn Mead. But yeah, as we see as we have a quick gaze, as we have a look at our virtual championship standings, it's still Morgan Davey leading the way in the championship, just ahead of, well ahead of Foster, well ahead of Atkinson and Scott. So Atkinson has actually gained a few extra points on Foster, will take P2 overall, and Scott will lose. Scott will gain a position in 3rd place, and then we have Foster actually dropping down to 4th place in the Platinum Championship. But as it goes towards the gold championship, we still have Barlow just leading the way, only just ahead of Scott Taylor and Glenn Mead, and it's going to be a very spicy finish for the boys, as they now finished with the American leg, and now we're off to the Asian leg in Japan for the next time out at Suzuka International Racecourse, and then we have in 2 weeks' time on the 13th of June. In the year 2023, but we are going to have to go to our before we finish off the stream, right? We have to give out our Player1 Sim Gear P1 driver of the day, and I think you may agree with me, but you may disagree with me. But I'm going to have to go with DP Mario 100%.
Definitely. I've got to give it to him. He's filled in for a gold driver. He's put in some quick laps. He was up there in qualifying. He's up there in the race. Pulled the overcut on Hutton. That was probably my standout there is he pulled that 1 lap extra overcut. So, you know, that definitely was my standout. So yeah, I'm gonna put it to DP Mario. You know, he did an outstanding job and got the win. So yeah, not only in class but outright too. You know, when you're a lower class driver and you get an outright win, that absolutely tops everything. You know, you get the win in your class, but to get outright, you know, that's theoretically it's a double trophy coming to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations to DP Mario getting the driver of the day, the Player1 Sim Gear driver, P1 driver of the day from both myself, Nick Pautasso, and Ryan Palmer. Not just getting the victory and overall victory, he's getting himself the driver of the day. So that's a clean sweep of trophies and awards going his way. So Ryan, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I will say on your debut here at MotorMotion E-Series, you have done a fantastic job, my friend. So hats off to you. You've done very well in your MotorMotion E-Series debut, broadcasting us the round 7 of the Player1 GT3 Championship. So thank you very much for that. And you have, my friend, have done a spectacular job. You definitely deserve a lot of rewards at the end of the night tonight.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's definitely paid off the last 2 years of streaming track stars. It's definitely paid off. So, yeah, you know, the setup and everything. But no, it's big thanks to the boys over at MotorMotion to let me in and do it all. You know, it's been a pretty stressful last probably 2 days for me. I'm just thinking on how I can get it and how I can better it and all that kind of jazz and how I'm going to play it out and what I'm going to say. So it was pretty daunting, but now I've done it. It's pretty calm down now, and it's also very hot in this room because I've got a jumper on and also the heater, and I've been meaning to take the jumper off, but it's just there was too much action to worry about it. But no, it's definitely a big ups to you guys over at MotorMotion. You know, it's all pretty set out, and especially those graphics done by Jeff, they're absolutely outstanding. So big thanks to him. Yeah. He made my life so much easier. You know, he had everything, gave me everything, and I just pretty much just put it on the stream and sorted it out. So no, big ups to these guys. They put on a fantastic job. But yeah, as always, you know, you like the stream, subscribe, comment, share it around to friends, family, watch it post race stream. You know, all the action's going to be live on the YouTube, and yeah, as always. But you know, mate, our commentator days are done until Sunday. So you know, actually no, we won't be commentating again for this because I'm away for the next round of this one. But
all right, yes, that's right. We'll have to figure out what the next stages are. But yeah, but thank you so much, Ryan, for bringing us the stream, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel, where your support has been absolutely amazing. The amount of likes and the amount of views and the amount of support you guys are giving us to MotorMotion as its debut season in season 2023, bringing you all the action and bringing us some awesome racing here. So big congratulations to both DP Mario and Nathan Hutton for taking out the victory in their respective class, getting 1 and 2 in the championship in this race here at Daytona road course. So thank you so much for tuning in, and obviously go follow our fellow commentator in Disappointed on his Twitch channel, but also subscribe to us here at MotorMotion E-Series, where you'll find all the actions in the Player1 GT3 Championship and the Track Racer TCR Cup coming up next weekend at Circuit de Barcelona in Catalonia, where you'll see some awesome racing in the Audi TT Group 4. So stay tuned for that. But for now, here at the GT3 Championship, thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Ryan Palmer and myself, Nick Pautasso, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
experience with Player1 Sim Gear. Shop the biggest brands and the best range today. Player1 Sim Gear, official sponsors of MotorMotion E-Series.